about your personal voice. How do we develop that personal voice? Having an opinion, you know, hence readers are allowed to, hence readers are allowed to, I have to think of a evidence and stuff here, so I'm going to be vague. Hence, readers are allowed to gain a deeper understanding into the role, into the, you know, the notion of loneliness as a construct for people's identity, something like that. So we want to have an opinion there. We want to have an adapting structure. So with your essays, and I'll talk a bit more about this, you want to have that adapting structure where you are able to have your personal voice. You don't have to stick to, you know, the one concrete structure. Based on the questions, you may, for instance, change quotes around. You may bring one quote up, you know, like so you may sort of choose to, you know, restructure your quote, shuffle them around. That's totally fine, as long as it's allowing your personal voice to come through, as long as it's linking back to your ideas strongly. The structure is in your quote. Like, you can do whatever you want to it, but just making sure that it's still adhering to the conventions of the essay. You've got your intro, body, paragraph, conclusions. You've got plenty of quotes. Totally fine. Then clear and clever expression. So you don't want to, you don't want to you don't want to repeat yourself. So you want to be succinct, you want to be cohesive. And it can totally happen, you know, when you've got 40 minutes to write an essay. So for modules, for paper 2, you're 40 minutes for each essay and 5 minutes reading time to read the 3 questions. Clear and clever expression. What that means is be succinct. You can definitely waffle. That's why you practice beforehand, so that you don't waffle on the day. So that's why clear and clever expression is important. I did see a question come through about, like, how do you include critics, like how much acknowledgement is needed. Like, just their name is enough. You can include the article, but just their name is enough. Like, you just need the name. That's it. The name and then what they said in quotation marks. You can paraphrase them, but having them in quote, like backing your point in, like, you've got your own point and the critic is backing your point, you want to have that in quotation mark. Cool. Okay, next we've got personal voice. So we've got these 3 things. How do we do that? We have clear and clever expression. We have an opinion by having unique analysis, by having critiques of a text. You are a critic. You are critiquing the text, so feel free to, you know, do that. You want to have analysis that flows, and that's why I said sometimes you may have to shuffle your quotes around or something in order to make sure the analysis flows. Like, that can happen based on the question. But what you want to avoid is, you know, like, chucking quotes out and adding in new quotes as you're writing the essay. It can happen if it's like really, if you think you remember a quote, you know the quote, you know the technique, you've used it before, but you chose not to use it in, you know, for your final couple of essays, and you feel like, okay, you know what, this is going to be really good, that's all good. But you don't want to sit there and be contemplating, okay, these are the quotes I'm going to use. You want to have that preparation ready to go before you get into the exam room. Introduce rebuttal, so you can rebut you can rebut, like, for instance, your critic. You can go against what they're saying, but please only do that if you've got solid evidence to back it up. Don't do it just for the sake of sounding cool. You don't want to make that mistake. So only do it if you've got good evidence to go with it, and if you really do believe that, you know, your idea counters their idea. Varied sentences. You know, make sure your tone is formal with the essay, but you want to have varied sentences, a mixture of you know, complex, short, simple sentences. You know the deal. What you don't want is like super long sentences or super short sentences. Like, I've seen super short sentences as well, where like you break a sentence in half and then you continue in a new sentence. Don't do that. This is something that will come along with practice. Specific verbs, and finally figurative language. So, personal voice, have an opinion. How do you react to the text? Don't forget, you are the audience. So you want to think about, do you like the text? Is it well made? Is it well written? You don't have to agree to it. Remember, you can critique it, but you need to have evidence to back yourself there. Think of what interests you about the text. You can experiment with the structure, right? So structure isn't a rigid thing. You can adapt your argument. So ways to various structures, switch up your appeal. Structure, so Q to EL, you can switch it up. You can go the symbolism in, then give the quote, then the effect, then the link. Totally works. You can talk about the you can talk about the effect, then the technique, then the quote, then the link. But you just want to make sure you've got all those elements in there. Use a quote from a critic or writer in your intro. You can do that too, but be very, very careful there. Clear and clever expression. So 2 words, short sentences. But that does not mean you'd write like super short sentences and you don't even finish the sentence, because I've seen that happen before. Short sentences means you've got, you're not writing like super long sentences, 2, 3 sentences. You've got short sentences that are making a point, answering it, and then moving on. Expand your vocabulary, so eradicate the word shows from your vocabulary. You want to use specific words like paints or conjures or highlights or accentuates. Or like embodies, queries. So you want to be able to be more specific here, because anything can show it, right? The text show like it's there, but specific verbs make your analysis more solid. Clear and clever expression, so figurative language. For instance, Puccino sanctified by the limelight of Hollywood. Mirroring his surrogate Prospero, Shakespeare conjures the striking image. So you can see here, like, we're using figurative language, to link back to Pacino. I'm talking about I'm talking about the influence Pacino has in Hollywood, right? Or with Shakespeare, I'm talking about his personal reflection in his work. Estella's precise word core hands become a motif that resounds through Pip's narration as a contemptuous synecdoche for his working class identity, each repetition intensifying as a mantra of shame. So you're allowed to spice it up. Okay, that's